Hey guys, Seamus here with a video looking at the recent Lucio changes on PTR patch 1.23. For some context on who I am, I'm a support player with a penchant for Lucio and consistently sit in high Grandmaster low top 500. To summarize this video ahead of time, I'll be taking a look at the changes between the updated Lucio on the PTR patch that was announced on April 18th and the Lucio currently on live. There are both buffs and nerfs to the hero, and I imagine these changes will be quite controversial considering this drastically changes the hero's playstyle. The first thing I want to note is that the change to his boop, aka Soundwave, is fantastic and I really have no problems with it. It's a really good buff for an ability that was gated in a bizarre way and ultimately will make playing Lucio more enjoyable and increase his effectiveness in DPS. His wall ride changes on this patch though make him play very differently from how he is on live. To illustrate this, I'll first have to demonstrate some key Lucio concepts. As a disclaimer, I am by no means a god at performing Lucio rollouts, but I do have a strong understanding of the theory and decent experience performing the techniques that this hero has. The first and most important thing in this video I'll introduce is called late jumping. If you'd like an in-depth guide to late jumping, I'll link it here, but just note that currently on live, after you wall ride forward past a flat surface, the game detaches you. During this detachment, Lucio players will jump to gain speed and move forward significantly as shown. The game automatically detaches you once you reach an angle on live, making it very easy to time when to jump again for the boost, and there is a generous time frame to perform this technique. This is fundamentally very different from the PTR, where Lucio now continues his wall ride around the corner without detaching from a wall. This change makes it easier for Lucio to wall ride continuously and contest certain points, even around rough terrain, as shown here on Ilios, and on Oasis. Notice how I have to keep jumping to reattach to the wall. While in many cases this increases Lucio's utility and makes him potentially harder to kill, to compensate the dev team reduce the speed boost he gets from wall skimming. On top of that, because the game no longer auto-detaches you once you move past a wall, this makes it incredibly difficult to time your detach manually for the biggest speed boost. In practice, what this means is that many of the current Lucio rollouts not only are going to be less effective, but maybe even impossible. As I mentioned before, I'm not a god at rollouts by any means, but compare my rollouts here on Lijiang's Gardens on both the live and PTR patch. It took the same amount of time recording both of these clips and I didn't really warm up for anything. On live, I'm fairly easily able to get to the point consistently and build consecutive speed boosts for the big bonus, but on the PTR, I'm struggling to get small boosts. It's really hard to chain them, and because of the decreased speed, I'm not able to complete the rollout. This is a complete change in Lucio style and is something that will certainly frustrate veteran Lucio players. To further illustrate what's going on, I've used my expert paint skills to draw some graphics of how exactly wall riding works on both the PTR patch and live. Currently on live, if you hold the jump button on a wall, you'll eventually be detached from the wall once you move past it. If you jump during this time, you'll perform a late jump, which gives you a significant forward momentum boost. You chain those boosts together to perform rollouts as shown previously. On the PTR, if you hold down the jump key, you won't ever detach. It's still possible to manually detach and get a speed boost, but it's very difficult to get the timing right, and the boost is still lower on PTR than it is on live. If you mistime your manual detachment, the result is very clunky, as your momentum is no longer going straight forward, and you'll find that your boost more likely than not disrupts you instead of propelling you forward. The margin for execution on the PTR patch to get a good boost is ridiculously slim, making this an awkward change for players currently comfortable on the new Lucio. As a side note, I buy my jump key to right click, but if the PTR patch does go live, it'll likely lead to a resurgence of scroll wheel Lucios. Scroll wheel jumping allows you to attach and detach in the quickest time possible, so you can get the best possible boost. The one aspect of where this change raises Lucio's effective skill ceiling is that PTR Lucio players will be able to focus more on aiming. Knowing that you won't constantly detach from walls allows players to aim at a certain area more consistently, and in that regard raises his potential effectiveness and skill ceiling. But the trade-off is that his mobility ceiling won't be as high. With that in mind, this is an arbitrary graph comparing both the skill floor and skill ceilings of PTR Lucio movement with live Lucio movement. I say it's arbitrary because the values of effectiveness and experience aren't scientific, but more to illustrate a hypothetical point. While this is not a perfect representation of the hero's actual skill ceiling progression, it does show an overall rough estimate of the difference in movement that Lucio has between the two patches. PTR Lucio will be much more forgiving for newer Lucio players because he allows crazy movement without much time investment that makes him fast and elusive. Currently, live Lucio is less effective with only little time investment because players will not know how best to link his late jumps. Improving at PTR Lucio to an intermediate degree plateaus fairly quickly because learning the exact timing of when to release jump will take an immense amount of practice, whereas a live Lucio player will more gradually improve his wall riding techniques, thus consistently increasing his effectiveness. At the highest level, if a PTR Lucio were to really heavily invest in learning the timings of when to get the maximum wall skim boost, they'll be close to as effective to live Lucio in overall movement and have the benefit of a more versatile wall ride. Still, because the max speed of PTR Lucio is lower than live, I do feel that ultimately the skill ceiling of live Lucio wall riding is higher, meaning a master of live Lucio has the potential to do more crazy, fast movement. But again, this graph is purely for demonstrative purposes and only really concerns wall riding. The increased ability to fire while moving does increase PTR Lucio's potential skill ceiling, but whether that complexity is worth it compared to the movement changes is debatable. That basically outlines the differences between the two Lucios, not including the ability to reattach on the same wall, which is essentially a straight buff. So personally, I really don't like the wall riding changes, as it feels really strange as someone who's put so much time into his current playstyle for that all to be changed. It's also concerning that Lucio so consistently gets sweeping changes, especially when they're not asked for. He's the only character to fundamentally have his hero mechanics changed so drastically nearly every half year or so, and for players to have to relearn the muscle memory every time he's changed is a terrible precedent. Like I said as well, I'm not even sure these changes were necessary. Live Lucio has a good balance of easy to learn, difficult to master, isn't overpowered or underpowered by any means, and plays well into the fantasy of being a crazy wall-riding frog boy. I'm not sure if there have been many complaints about the hero at lower skill tiers, and I am certainly very biased as a Lucio main, but he currently feels well-rounded, balanced, and fun on live. So definitely, currently, I personally hope these changes don't go through, but I do imagine a lot of people will have an opinion on this. If these changes do go through, I hope that Blizzard gives some type of assurance to Lucio players that, for the love of God, this is going to be the last major rework he gets for a very long time. Having to constantly change playstyles and relearn the hero so frequently is draining, counterintuitive, and it may ward potential future Lucio mains off of the hero. That's it for this video. Like I said before, this is likely going to be a really controversial topic, so let me know what you think. Do you like the changes? Would you rather only the Soundwave change go live? And what are your thoughts on his skill ceiling and the skill floor across the two different patches? There is a massive community of Lucio lovers, which has taught me a lot, and I wanted to make this video for our community. So if you have any questions about the techniques or nomenclature mentioned, be sure to check out r/Lucio rollouts to learn more about the hero and discuss his changes. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys, and if you like this video, thank you very much for watching, everyone. This has been Seamoose.